Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Morning Jumpstart. My name is Jason Meyer, and this morning we get to start with compositions again. We start each month with compositional studies, move from compositional studies into the color scheme studies, and then for the final 2 weeks of the month, we spend that developing and, how should we say, developing and doing starting paintings, right? And then we repeat that every month, and month after month after month we get better and better and better. And how do I know that? Because you guys have shown me. So good morning, Susan. Susan is waiting. Speaking of somebody pushing it forward, Susan has pushed the fish forward amazingly. So I think before we start today, because it's just a little simpler to do here than it is there, I wanted to run through quickly what we'll be looking at today, and then we'll that'll work. Boom, we'll head over to Procreate and get started. All right, we're almost ready. Here we go. Everything's in order, looks good. All right, I think we're ready to share with you guys. I think we're ready to share. So this is the reference for the month, the sunset reference. And we talked about our number 4 value. Pardon me. Number 4 value. And how the people on the beach are just a number 4 value extended up, and then these little indications of waves, the darks there would be the number 4 value as well, and then the number 1 value. So one of the things I like to do, especially when you got, wait, what is all of this? I don't really know. Forget about this. Forget about the difficult things to see and just start with what's obvious. Well, this is obviously a dark, right? This is obviously the lightest. And then see what you have left, right? If we call this number 1 value, we call this our number 4 value, then what do we have left? We have number 2 and 3. So between all of this, it's simply, for the most part, needs to be divided by 2 and 3, with a couple little kisses of 1 here, maybe here and there. All right, so that's what we've got going on. And here's Sue. Sue will be up first. We'll look at her. And I wanted to include this one because sometimes we forget, but I can't tell you how often this happens. Is we get a submission for here's my thing, and then it's like, oh, here's an update. As I took the picture and when I sent it and I looked at it, I saw what needed to be done. So realize that. Take a picture and sit down. Not that you want to paint it for the picture, but sometimes just seeing it in that slightly different format can really bring your eye somewhere. And a photograph is not an exact copy. Photographs change the values. They group values differently. They can group edges differently and colors differently. So again, sometimes that little bit of shift will make something obvious that wasn't so obvious to you before. Okay, so in this case, Sue sent this and she says, oh, this feels a little open here. And it's okay, but you see, this is not quite such a moody sunset. Whereas if we do, you see that got just a bit moodier? Yes, yes, yes. So we'll look at this in Procreate here in just a minute. But let's go through everything here. And then Katie sent this in, and Katie has some more dramatic values here. Looks good. Looks good. So we'll take a look at this as well. And we're going to finish up today by looking at Still Life here by Claudia. And very good. one of the reasons I wanted to show this today is I wanted to show this with the reference. Right? And just to impress upon everybody, a painting's just not about copying what's right before you, but it's about making value decisions, otherwise known as design decisions. It's about making color decisions or decisions on the mood, right? Decisions on the edges, on the paint qualities. And when those decisions are consistent, right? You got good value decisions, you got good color decisions, good edge decisions. Then we're getting somewhere. Then we are getting somewhere. All right, so remember, these are all decisions. You just don't want to copy what we see. And then I definitely wanted to take another look at Susan here. And part of the reason why is because last I heard, she's a happy camper, and she should be. She should be. And why is that? Why is that? Well, remember we stopped and had her do some color studies. And we weren't really happy with either one of those. So, what's the difference here? Is that orange brighter? No, it's darker and duller. Is it lighter and more colorful in the background? No, it's more dull. There's a little bit here. She moved the most to right here. That was pretty effective. I would say that's pretty effective. And also I want to bring your attention to the background. Why, hello there. Oh my gosh. Somebody spilt some fish in the background. These little things right here really make the difference. Could you imagine if all of this was just boom? There would be no connection, there would be no harmony. These would be neighbors that didn't talk to each other, but threw rocks and hams and shot at each other every now and then. Well, that's not very neighborly. But hey, oh yeah, the kids can come play in my yard anytime. Don't worry about it. I know it's subtle, but can you guys see that? Can you guys see that? And then also, with the harmony and closeness here, we can still have clear separation, but then look at the kind of separation we have here. So what's the effect of that? Well, the effect of is, well, where do we focus? Well, we go to the color and the light. So look where our color and our light are. They're not right here on the edge of this fish, back here on the edge. They're in the center. Right, then there's a hard enough edge to start this, but the whole thing isn't cut out. It's opened up, so it seems like there's some movement. And then along with this grab, there's a definite finish. How did we get the definite finish? Well, there's some hard edges. There's a little value change, but in addition to that, look at that color change. Orange to blue. You might call that brown, but it's just a darker, a little more neutral orange. Hey. And then look how much stronger that is than the fish here. Okay, so very, very good. Very good. Oof, so good. Do you see the difference here? There's no color identity. Whereas you might not think there was much color in the other one. May have looked brown, but brown is more colorful than black. right? And so what happens is there's a bigger change between here and there. And this is a stronger color when it relates to that. So you guys, I hope you guys can see that this is just 300 miles ahead. 300 miles ahead of this. Okay, it can be very subtle, but good job. You know, look how warm. It seems a little cool right here a little bit, but the depths are warm. So, right, a big fish could come swimming up out of there at any time. Right? Okay. Man, I could just, when it works, you can just sit and spend forever with them. Forever. All right, let's see. Miss Shakti's here. Hi, Shakti. Yeah, right? Yeah, good job. Good job. She had fun. Good. See, and it looks better and you had a better time. That is what we're going for right there. Let's improve the work. But even more important than that, let's improve your experience of working. Right? And when you're being effective, when you have an idea of what's going on, then your experience, it's easier to open up a little bit, to relax. But if you're always tense and I'm not, how do I do that? I don't know how. Man, that's no way to go through life. That's definitely no way to produce art. So let's loosen up a little bit. Looking good, Susan. Looking good. All right. So time for a little Procreate. A little Procreate. Maybe. All right. Oops. So this was the first one with Sue. And then she wrote, after she saw that, she felt like that was a little open, so she kind of grayed this area off. And as we close down the light or compress the light, make it smaller, things will tend to get a slightly more mysterious, a little bit more moody. Okay? So you can watch how that happens. Watch how that happens. Okay, so do you guys notice? Right, she grayed that a little bit. So very good. All right, so I think you have the right idea, Sue. I think you have the right idea. And so this is going to seem a little harsh because this is so good that I'm going to have to get in here and be a little persnickety to push you forward, okay? But we're going to push you forward. So let me go through some of the things I notice, okay? So that spacing, I think, could be a little bit better. Do you see that now that we've pointed out between the shore and here, between that and there, between that and there? And I know they're a little bit different, but again, if that's that, then is this really the back of the ocean? You know what we're doing there? So the larger this is, the smaller it makes that look. So with that in mind, I think what I would do, and we do, you know, it's not a bad idea to have a little coming and going up here. But really, this is just about getting us started, holding us back and setting this up. And since this is going to be so active up here, I think you're going to be happier if you keep this a bit more straight and quiet with just a few of these people on the beach sticking up here. Okay, so I would, if not completely flatten, I would greatly reduce these, and then the size here I would greatly reduce too. And as you reduce the size between like the wave and the shore, what will happen is as this goes smaller, the effect of that will make this piece appear more vast, right? And part of this is we want the sun setting over the vastness of this ocean, right? Not that we want to be swallowed by it, right? But part of the power that comes from this work is the quietness of this massive, and I mean massive, body of water, right? But that water is going to be much smaller in size than the sky. So do you see? I know people hate talking to me. They hate talking to me. It just drives them nuts. They're like, man, he helps out, but the stuff he says, I just, all I want, Jason, just 2 cents. Tell me how big this is. How big to make that? I can't because this is dependent upon this, upon this, upon the activity of this, upon the size of that. Literally everything's related. And I know Sue here is really onto this right now, and that's one of the reasons I'm going into this so much. So I think, Sue, what I'm going to recommend for you is to quiet this down just a little bit. Maybe even push this up a little bit if you can. I know sometimes once there's white here, it's hard to go over. But I even might make this slightly bigger. And then I would definitely make the space between the waves much, much smaller. Maybe something like that. Right? So if you've got people here, that second wave should intersect with those people. I hope that helps out. Okay? And then for the sky, are you starting to see a little something here? The distance, the distance, the distance, that distance. Do those feel eerily the same? They do. Gosh dang it. And I know that you really, really, really tried to do that. The fence builder is deep within us. The fence builder is deep within us. Okay, so as you come back, what I'm going to try to do, and this is the brightest is going to be back here, right? But the largest will be up here. Why? Because this is closer to us, and this is further back, right? And then this will be gray, but this is as far back as we go through the horizon's down here. So that's the most. So we're going back from here to there, and then from the top down. So both of those, this is close to us. This is the closest ground to us. This is the closest sky to us. So remember with that size, and it's a little bit different down here, but as you're walking these clouds off, make sure to get a little bit of that. Okay? So with the white, let's see, let's start again. Let's start here. I can't help myself. I got to do it. I got to do it. Let's go to some charcoal. There we go. It looks like a good pencil. All right, so just a little quieter here. That was maybe a little tall and goofy. But then the waves, maybe a little bit more like that. Okay. And then the white, a little smaller, then that could be a little bit bigger here. And then up here, could be slightly less. At least here or there, we need to make that. Okay, so do you see what I did there? You guys see what I did was I made that the smallest, and then I made it bigger there, and then I made it even bigger there. So this will look like it's closer, that'll go back, and that'll go back according to size. According to size, okay? And I think that will help quite a bit too. A little subtle thing here. Watch it, and as I did this, I think I messed it up a little bit, but we're already relatively heavy over here. So I think I would be a little, not that I wouldn't have any, I'd have some light here, but I'd be a little sparser. Right, maybe not let this go over so far, maybe close that in. And then yeah, let there be a little more excuse me, activity on that side. Okay. So I hope that helps, Sue. You're doing fantastic. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Okay? And these are the things that really push this to a finish. That'll really push this to a finish. Okay, what do we got next? What do we have next? Miss Katie. Miss Katie. Miss Katie on the islands. Seems like she has a feel for the beach, huh? So, and again, I know it can be hard with these big chunky chalks and things like that. Oops. But we've got to, even watch here that these things don't get. It's amazing how, especially when things are little bitty. Especially when things are little bitty, how easy it is to get that off. But can you see as I make that wave smaller, that feels a little more natural? Okay, so I know subtle, 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 but so I would divide that dark mass up a little bit, and I would let that happen. And then I think, other than that, it's just a matter, is I feel like this light, we just need a touch more. Just a touch more. Meaning, like, maybe that spreads out a little further over there. That's, you see, as I go a little bit wider here, the feeling. And what that's going to do is it's going to help the sky feel expansive. Yeah, now so that's a little bit rough, and even now it looks a little too stair-stepped and everything to me. But just a little side to side, and again, if it's too stair-step, we'll cut back in with the background. Right, and because it'll always look better with a little bit back and forth. A little bit back and forth, and as I go back and forth, I try to have a bit of a different shape, different stroke each time I do, and that's going to create more interesting shapes. Yeah, that's it. And then, other than that, if we wanted to, we could talk about just taking this slightly darker here at the top. And you see how that kind of compresses that light just a little bit? Right, and maybe there's a few little darker clouds in here somewhere. Right, just a little heavier gray. So you see the small little adjustments even in the sky. And even as we come down here, maybe there's some that are a little bit darker, making their way through. Yeah, not messing up. Not messing up our whole thing, but you see how that happens? Just push back and forth, and then, man, charcoal especially, take advantage of some of this smudging, right? Because these edges make a big difference in clouds. Right? You see, as I even come up here and soften some of these edges, this starts looking, it just starts relaxing a little bit. All right. But man, this looks brilliant. This looks brilliant. This is a personal thing. It's a personal thing. But this isn't quite feeling right to me. That shape there. One of the reasons I came a little bit straight down and had that like that, then had the people there, and I know this, in a lot of cases, that would be a horrible shape. But in this case, if we put the light like a little more predictable like that, we need that. We need the quiet stability. The quiet stability down here, because things get so crazy up here. Okay, so in this scenario, I do think, oh no, I do think right, that little Do you see that contrast? And so what this helps do, and we've been talking a lot about this lately, is as we go from the top to the bottom, we need to have some changes. So that this is different enough from this, and these two are different enough from this, and those three are different enough from those, that it makes us seem like different things are happening. It's interesting, right? And so that's one way we have to travel through the canvas. But the canvas isn't one-dimensional, it's two-dimensional. So again, we can think about how do these things change through there. Okay, now this is more this kind of a movement. So this is more of a minor piece in this piece. But again, it just very simply. And it's amazing that the further you go in this, you're actually looking at less and less and less and less. Most people believe that the better artists see more and more and more and more. That's a little misunderstanding. What the artist does is they do more with less. But by keeping it less, they keep the clarity. All right, so I think you're looking great, Katie. That's just some subtle little design things I would consider there. And then you're on your way. Yeah, right? A dramatic sky. And part of that dramatic sky is we've got to give enough room for it. Katie, as I glanced at this, I saw one last thing I'm going to point out here. Is that and that equal? And why is that an issue? Well, what is a setting sun? Well, the setting sun means it's low on the horizon, right? It almost means that the setting sun, you can think about the setting sun as being pushed down by the sky, right? But that sky is so much weaker than the sun, so it's going to take a lot of sky to get that sun. So fill it out, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but if you have the time and the energy, what would this setup be is if you did that sun down there, right? Would that ocean then go to there? And then maybe we have to kick, I don't know, then would this stay like this? I don't know what that would do. Is that would bring that light down to here, and then we could have dramatic clouds, more big. Do you see that? And again, by making more sky, it's going to reinforce the idea of that setting sun. Okay, and again, it comes down to feeling. But if you can be specific, setting sun, people meandering on the beach, right? The quiet ocean with just small waves lapping at the shore. Really, I mean, if you were to write some novel or something about this scene, how would you describe it? And then once you have that in your mind, what's the look of that description that just came out of you? All right. You guys are headed to world-class painters. World-class painters, that's what we're after here. Great job. Okay, so just a little before and after. Again, these little subtle things can really make a big difference. And it's hard as a teacher sometimes because I see people put some work in and they get to the end and they want to finish. But the things that are wrong are these kind of little subtle things. You know, the middle of the thing. It's not necessarily what we think. And that's why it's so important to do these compositional studies. And that's why this month we're going to be doing another class Friday on it to see how we really get to the finish. Because the finish, right, you just start right off the bat. You got to get that finish down first. Good job, Katie. Good job, kiddo. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Miss Claudia. I've got a small one of these hanging on my wall that I'm anxious to get back to myself. So I wanted to use the setup here to show you guys how you should be reading these compositions. For one thing, I hope you see how simple this is. No, not complicated, simple. Simple, what are you talking about? Looks pretty simple to me. Right? So you don't think a triangle's simple? You don't think a triangle's simple? So what does this triangle represent? What does this triangle represent? It represents our action. Let's do that a different way. Action. And what does everything else? What does everything else in this painting represent? Right? Again, if we have to see it simple. If we can't see it simply, if we can't understand it simply, there's just no hope, right? It's just too complex of a process. But if we see it simply, oh my goodness. So one more time. What does the blue represent? Rest. Time off from work. So the first question of every painting is, what is the proportion? How much action to how much rest? You guys ever heard that before? You guys ever heard? The first question is how much action to how much rest. So last night on Masterworks, we looked at different painters and how they held their shapes. And so would you consider this an active shapes, an active canvas? Is there more action or is there more rest? Okay. Is there action? Is there rest? So now tell me about the proportion of action and rest in this painting. Well, thank you, Susan. Thank you, thank you. Do you guys see? We get so mesmerized by the objects. We just get completely the objects and the color that we're hypnotized out of seeing what's directly in front of us. A very calm light shape with action spilling out, almost like a thumping nightclub with the patrons spilling out onto the streets. How about a smaller, quieter little restaurant with the patrons leaving, getting into their cars and the taxis? Nobody's resting here. We're running, we're jumping, right? We're in an amusement park here, right? Look how, and then our holds aren't really that solid. What do I mean those holds aren't that solid? That's a lot more of a solid hold than what we get here. Can you feel that difference? Okay. Okay. Sometimes it's a little easier to see in black and white. Rest versus action. Rest versus action. Even in that, there's a proportion, there's a measure. It's not all of one or all of another. Now, some of you may think you've never heard that before. I assure you, you have, but it might have been stated differently. But it's the same thing as something to nothing. Action, rest, something, nothing. A different words to describe the same phenomenon. All right. So, boom. Wait, what? Again, we've got to see this simply. And can we simply break it down into these two pieces? And then in our mind, just at this level, is it possible? Could it be? That if we wanted to, that we could actually start adjusting the painting right here and right now? Ah. Interrupt that. And maybe interrupt that. So even on this level, did we just improve this painting? So we went from that shape to that shape. Okay, this is important because you're not doing the right thing until you see this. Right? What people are doing is they're endlessly they're endlessly going back to this as a individual thing. And then they take that and they separate it off from everything else. And then they'll take this and they separate that off from everything. And they take this and they separate that off. And they take this and they separate that off. And then when you're done, you don't have what we have here, but you'll have what will look like that. Can you feel the lack of power, the lack of clarity? When you compare it to that? And then what if on this one, just what if from here, instead of thinking about all the things we needed to draw, what if there was just a few things we had to take away instead? You know, I'm not particularly trying to draw anything here, but I'm just saying, what if? And then what if we played with some edges a little bit? What if some of the edges were hard and some of the edges were softer? So in one way, we could think about this as one big boom, pile of clay that we're just cutting and adding a little bit to and carving. Okay, sculptural painting. Okay. So we'll look one more time at where we started, and then we'll get to Claudia's after I make one last point. All right, so once we see that simply, then the other thing I want to see is how can I divide this up and down? Well, could I divide this maybe from that? And so here I've got 1, 2, 3 sections. All right, so that's something. That's something. And then how can I see it from across? All right. Well, right here, that's mostly shadow. Right here, that's mostly light. So on this one, it's a single dark with a gradation to our light. And then down on this layer, look, we're quiet, deet, 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 boom, deet, 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 whoop, right? And that whoop right there actually has to include all of that. Woohoo! That's so fun. Boom. And then we go here. Bye, love you, drive safe. So this is how we're kind of subdividing, or I might start to carve into that orange shape that we had. I might carve into that orange shape we had. Okay, so I hope that makes a little sense. All right, so since we were doing compositions, I thought let's talk about that before we get to the painting. How am I doing? Oh my goodness. So, now when we look at this painting, what do we see? What do we see? Okay. So that's glare, but we're coming out of the dark. We've got table going across here. We've got dark down here, and then we've got action going across here, and then we've got rest past there. The other way we're going dark. We've got light, and then we're falling to like a gray. Okay, so we've got all of that going. She's got that set up, and that's one of the reasons it looks as good as it does at this point. Now, where to go from here? Where to go from here? I feel, and you've got to feel your way, that this light comes up a little far. I would kind of hold that in just a little bit, I think. Would hold that in a little bit. And maybe give it a little bit more of an angle. Why? Well, this is kind of a thud. It's a nice difference between all the other ones, but I don't know that this is a shape we really want to repeat right on top of it. In addition to, right, this is basically all the shapes right here. So in my mind, and you may feel different, I feel like this light, instead of a roundness, if it had just more of a longer, thinner feel to it. Do you know what I mean? Or even going out. But because there's so many rounds in here already, you know, for some reason I'm really feeling that, and it just seems a little too repetitive for me. Okay, I know subtle, 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 but I think that will make a big difference, Claudia. And then really the only thing else is I think the light here makes this too much. I like that little bit of detail with the crack in the wood, but I think the crack and the light's a little too much. I might back off on that just to quiet that down a little bit. Yeah, it felt like, and again, the photos sometimes are different. And then last night on Masterworks, we talked about, I know you had another meeting you were doing at the same time, but we talked about in order for things to be seen, they've got to be held by another value. Well, here, it's not the holding it's the problem, but it's almost like it's held too tight. You see even just like a little reflect. As I just kind of open that up, do you see how that note feels a little softer, a little better? And these grapes, this might be slightly too light, but you know, I'm thinking, again, I don't know if I can get this small here, but just a couple of small highlights. That one's probably too bright. Can do there. And then the other thing that could really help you out here, Claudia, is a negative shape somewhere. Right? Sometimes these grapes, since they're darker, if we can land on a negative shape, not saying these are the best negative shapes there, but just showing one or two in there, I think would really fix that with a highlight or something on that side, as well as I would nail down a negative shape in here, whatever that is. And you see how that starts to open that up just a little bit. We want it connected, but we want it open. You've got it brilliantly over here between the jar and the leaves. So just in a couple of other places, I think that would really help. And then the last thing I'll say is I think the appropriateness, but those little blue lines that run around that ginger jar, Claudia, Claudia, we're getting close to a finish here, but you're getting close to a finish. Getting close to a finish there. And then what else? So I think the last thing I'll say here, Claudia, is I feel like this and this are a little too close. These are brighter, but look how much larger that is. So I really feel like there's just a little too much weight there. And so I may take that background down just a little bit. Just a little bit. What would that be? I know, this stuff is so subtle. If we close that in. Yeah, even almost just like that, right? And then boom. All right, kiddo, I hope that helped with some things, because you are really close. And then if you need more from here, what I would do is I would add a little bit of, you could get a bit more color in some of the shadows. Okay, and that will pop it up a little bit. But great, great, great. Okay, and we'll bring it home with, this is just the start. But again, so much goodness is happening right here. I feel like this is a really solid, solid, solid start. So good. I don't think she got to it yet, but at this point, Miss Susan, and again, it might be photographed. These little guys are just reading a little bright, but it looks like that might even be the tone of the canvas still there, so I don't even think you got to it yet. So just keep going, everybody. My gosh, you guys are killing it. I'm loving it. You're making me happy, happy, happy. What are you guys having to say? I think I thought that came from Susan earlier, but that came from Shakti. Brilliant question. Thank you, Shakti. Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, there was certain abstract arts that I've always been attracted to, and I couldn't tell you, and then some of them were just, oh my gosh, I can't stand it. And if there's aesthetic balance in that movement, those abstract qualities, but really, those abstract qualities should be in any painting. And then if you're on top of that abstract quality, if we can add that sense of realism or some form or something too, then you get the best of both worlds. David LaFell and Sherry McGraw, I think, coined the term abstract realism, right? And that's what they mean by that, is you're really painting abstract, but there's enough there. So, good. I'm so glad you're getting... Yes, there is. That's for the... Talking about the still life before. Yes. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that was the raw canvas there, Susan. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I know. Just at a time. This is looking so good here. Take your time, do your thing. This makes me really, really glad that I stopped you. I know you were frustrated when I did, but I think this will be literally 50 times the painting with this better color sense. Great. Uh-oh, we got a smoocher here. Great. Excellent, guys. Excellent. Where do we need to go? How about a little do-si-do? Get rid of that. 8:59. That means the show is over. This week, there will be no Thursday morning jump start. We're going to pull back on Thursday. I've got some other projects I've got to get to. But I'll be back Wednesday morning, tomorrow morning, right here, same time, same place, doing... same thing, but completely different. And then, let's see, what else we got? Tomorrow night, well, no, tonight we've got Sketch Club on Facebook. And then we'll see you all back here Friday for class. All right, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you. Have a great day. Be beautiful.